We need to have a discussion about the new World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins. So, of course, after the Night of Champions pay per view, we saw Seth Rollins winning the World Heavyweight Championship, crowning being the very first ever World Heavyweight Champion for the WWE. I think it's just a brand new history, if I'm not mistaken. And he defended his World Championship on this past Monday Night Raw against Damian Priest in a really good main event match. After the show, there's probably hints that Damian Priest might turn babyface potentially later on down the road. You never know. He might be the one to turn babyface against the Judgment Day. Potentially, that is a higher potential. But focusing on just Seth Rollins in the World Heavyweight Championship, uh, on how to pretty much build up this World Heavyweight Championship and what's the correct way to do it. So taking a step back, and I've been watching 2002 WWE, because that's the year that they went ahead and did the brand splitting the brands up. The WWE champion Brock Lesnar was drafted to the SmackDown brand. It was exclusive to SmackDown, which led to Eric Bischoff introducing the World Heavyweight Championship to the Monday Night Raw brand, and Triple H being his first world champion. With Triple H being the first world champion, he defended that world championship that same night against Ric Flair, and he beat him. And then Triple H would go on to the pay-per-view. I forgot which pay-per-view it was, and defended the world title and retained it against RVD and retained it. And then in a random mini feud against Bubba Ray Dudley, Triple H will retain the world championship on a Monday Night Raw, and that also. So at that beginning right there, Triple H was really built as a really strong world heavyweight champion, mainly because they pretty much awarded him the world championship. You know, he didn't have to fight or earn the world championship; he was just given the world heavyweight championship, and I think he would hold on that world championship until Survivor Series of that year, if I'm not mistaken. Is Survivor Series of that year or somewhere close to that before he actually lost the world championship. So looking at the Seth Rollins situation here, Seth Rollins after beating AJ Styles and then retaining over Damian Priest, Braun Baker on NXT was saying Seth Rollins come to NXT and defend the World Heavyweight Championship on NXT. I think that's a nice way to introduce Braun Baker to the main roster, in my personal opinion, not just NXT. Maybe you have him lose by disqualification or something to anger at the best of him, or something like that, to where Seth Rollins still retained but showcase that Braun Breaker is a threat towards that world championship, and eventually on his main roster call up and building him up, he's a threat to that world championship moving forward. But I think you just continue. I think you continue to build Seth Rollins as the world champion, whether that's title matches, non-title matches, and you also want to build up his feuds. You know what I'm saying? Don't have it like for whatever reason back then they was having just random matches for Triple H. It seemed like the feuds wasn't. I feel like they were just feuding with just to have him something to feud with. I think here for Seth Rollins, I think the Raw brand has so much potential, so many potential on the brand that they can build a legit world championship scene around Seth Rollins. Like I said, he already beat Damian Priest. Now, I'm not too sure what's the next pay-per-view. Is it Money in the Bank? I think at the Money in the Bank Money in the Bank pay-per-view, maybe he defends it against, it might be, I always try to hold off on Finn Balor, in my personal opinion. I'll try to hold off on Finn Balor and have that as a SummerSlam rematch or so like that. I think that'd be better off for them to have another iconic matchup at SummerSlam for the third time against one another. Outside of that, though, I think moving forward for Seth Rollins, like I said, he has a list of wrestlers. You got Bronson Reed, who will be an excellent addition to the world title scene at some point or another. Of course, running back with Cody Rhodes at some point. Of course, not Cody Rhodes winning. I don't think he should win it at all. Dominic Mysterio is that could be like a Monday Night Raw TV feud. Definitely not a pay-per-view feud. Just something to have on Monday nights. You know what I'm saying? Something like that would be that'd be decent, and I'll see exactly how Dominic will perform under that situation. Moving forward, potentially Drew McIntyre. I'm not too for sure if they got his contract locked and loaded just yet, or we're still waiting on his contract to be signed. But if his contract does get signed here eventually, I would run that feud also. A heel Drew McIntyre versus babyface Seth Rollins, who's super over at this moment. I think that will do wonders for both of them, especially for Drew McIntyre on his return back, because before then last thing we saw Drew McIntyre was in the feud with Gunther and Sheamus. So bringing him back, pushing towards the world title scene, a heel version of Drew McIntyre would be beautiful. Of course, Finn Balor, that's always going to be there. Eventually, Gunther will have to make his way up there to the world title scene, and I think Gunther would be the guy, in my personal opinion, that I would have take the title off of Seth Rollins if it was me. Moving forward, teaser matches like Johnny Gargano, that'd be like a little fun little feud they can have. Once again, one of those TV feuds, not a main event picture just yet. Maybe Kevin Owens after this tag team run with Sami Zayn, but you never know what they want to do with that going forward. Matt Riddle will be an interesting feud to rekindle, but that would be for like a heel Matt Riddle. I don't know if Matt Riddle can pull off the heel gimmick or not, but I think he has a very interesting way of doing it. Or they could just have pretty much a family, not a family, but a friendly feud or so. You know, Seth Rollins can always push those limitations to it. The Miz is definitely one I would love to see have him a feud with. I think that would be just build the Miz back up, pretty much. Just build the Miz back up. I think he would do one of those. Ricochet. I think both of those guys on a pay-per-view or just a TV feud, I think that would be 1000% wonderful for Ricochet to have a singles match for the world title match to showcase everything he does. We know exactly what he does in that ring. We all know what he can do in that ring. So having a chance to compete for the world championship, I think, put the icing on the cake, in my personal opinion. Of course, they can always tease a Sami Zayn one. Same thing with Kevin Owens. You'll never know how long. And then you have Shinsuke Nakamura, another feud that's waiting to be exposed too. So, like I said, the Monday Night Raw brand has more than enough guys for Seth Rollins to defend his championship against. And that's not including wrestlers who are free agents, like Bray Wyatt, eventually supposed to be making his return back to the company. I'll talk about that in a different video, quite honestly. Of course, Brock Lesnar can go after that championship. That would be interesting. Dolph Ziggler, rebuilding up Dolph Ziggler would be a fun one. John Cena, if he ever wanted to do another world championship match against Seth Rollins, I think that would be awesome to see also. I would assume at some point they'll have Logan Paul compete for that World Heavyweight Championship, especially with Seth Rollins as world champion. I think they'll run that. I think they'll run that at least once or twice. You could say, hopefully to these two guys, Randy Orton and Robert Roode. Right now, they both out with neck injury. One with a back injury, Orton, and neck injury for Robert Roode. So you can always potentially run that eventually. And then, of course, down here, you also have Tommaso Ciampa. He had a hip surgery. So those are the couple guys right there. If I take a look at the NXT brand and the guys that could be called up, like I said, we talked about Braun Baker already. That's easy. We're talking about... wait a second. I almost forgot. Dragunov. Dragunov can definitely be a feud also. Would not be an instant world champion. Like, these guys wouldn't be instant outside of Braun. It wouldn't be an instant feud, but just something they could run into. And then, of course, Tyler Bate. Tyler Bate would also be excellent to do. Once again, those guys will be called up to the main rosters, and they'll have to build themselves up before we can actually take them seriously into the world championship division. I think Seth Rollins, in my personal opinion, I think I'll have Seth Rollins hold that championship to close to WrestleMania time, or if not to WrestleMania, and have Gunther take the title off of him. I think that'll be excellent for Gunther moving forward, and he'll be very, very incredible considering this lengthy reign he has with the Intercontinental Championship. You move over and you have a world champion, have him as the world champion would be great. This also doesn't count the Money in the Bank match because LA Knight could win that match and take that world championship off of him. It could be somebody else that wins that match and take the champ and take that opportunity to take the world championship. So I'm not even including any of those guys that could potentially win that match. I'm not too for sure, but I think the right way is to continue having Seth Rollins be the main guy, and then when Roman Reigns is not main event, I mean not at these pay-per-views, having main event. But then again, to me, this is where the brand exclusive pay-per-views would play a factor into building up Seth Rollins as a champion, as a more threat of a champion, is having a brand exclusive Monday Night Raw, brand exclusive SmackDown pay-per-views, to where Seth Rollins can continue to main event and continue to push forward with everything he's doing. That's personally my personal opinion. You guys got to let me know down in the comment section what you're thinking when it comes to Seth Rollins as world champion. Do you have an idea who would you like to see win that world championship or feud for that world championship? And who would you have Rollins drop it to, and then when would you like to have him drop it to? Hit that like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.